Patrick Cook here. Well, thanks for joining me in session 33 of our Mastering Mandelbulb 3D Formula Tutorial Series. Now, I want to take a close look at one particular control over in the DEcombinate hybrid mode section. But before we do that, let's kind of set things up here so that I think you can understand the functionality that I'm going to point out to you much better. Taking a look at the screen we have here, I've done a reset. All right, so we have integer power in the first formula. I'm in alternate hybrid mode right now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to formula number 2, and I am going to put a dIFS formula in there, and I think what I'm going to do Borg IFS. Okay? Now what I want to do is I want to show you each one of these as a standalone Mandelbulb object. All right, now we already have rendered here the formula 1, the integer power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that off. I'm turning it off by telling Mandelbulb, don't do any iterations on that formula. Okay, so that's turned off. Formula number 2 is the Borg IFS. That's a shape formula. I'm going to execute this now, and we're going to see the we're going to see the Borg IFS shape formula. This is not a dIFS transform. All right, this is a shape. So what I've done here is I'm showing you just the shape. All right, and from what you saw before, you saw just the shape for integer power. Okay, so that sets the stage of what I want to show you. I'm going to go back to Formula 1. I'm going to turn the integer count back on, so that allows the two formulas to be run. In alternate mode, you know that these two objects are going to be layered on one another. But what I'm interested in here is the DEcombinate. So let's switch over to DEcombinate. Now, the DEcomb down here, okay, it's a very interesting section. Now, there is one area that is a little bit unique, and that is the mix. So if I set this to mix, okay, you'll notice here that two other controls popped up. All right. Now I'm just going to leave these at their default value for now, and I'm going to actually run this. All right. So this is my DEcombinate, where I have, I have formula number 1 is integer power. Formula number 2, actually it's more correct, it's sequence number 2. All right, because this sequence here is delineated by this value right here. So sequence 2 of the DEcombinate is the Borg IFS. So the way this mix works, it's not truly a Boolean operation, okay? I haven't been able to get a lot of documentation on it, but it's somewhat of a mystery, and I think a lot of people can't really explain it. But what's going on here is that we have an escape time formula that is the integer power, and we have a shape formula that are being combined. All right. Now, in the mix mode, this is a very it's a special type of combination. There's something where they talk about where the second formula is integrated with the first formula along the z-axis. All right, I can't really explain what that means because I don't really know myself. I have an idea, but you saw from earlier where we had the integer power and we had the Borg IFS. Now, I want to get to these two controls down here because these two controls only show up when you're in the mix mode. If I go to min, they disappear. All right, if I go to max, they're not there. Those two controls only show up when we're in mix mode. Now, what are they? Let's start with the easier one first. This CO, what that does is it tells you that how the colors are going to be combined of the two sequences, the DEcombinate sequences. I only happen to have one formula for sequence 1, one formula for sequence 2. Okay, this tells you this is how the colors will be combined. Now, 0 means that the colors are going to be averaged together. 1, a value of 1 in here, means that the color is going to be derived from the first formula. 2 in here means that the colors are going to be derived from the second formula sequence. All right, well, let's try it. So we already know that this is what the 0, these, we already know that I've rendered this as a 0 CO. That's our average colors. Let's put a 1 in here and recalculate. And what this is doing is it's taking and using the colors from the first formula sequence. If I put a 2 in there, it will take the colors from the second formula sequence. I've just executed it. So basically, I have some control as to where the color palette is used. I can either average the colors of the two formula sequences, or I can get the colors primarily from formula sequence 1 or from primarily sequence 2. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. The default is 0. We're going to leave it on 0. Let me recalculate this. Now, the next one, FPOW. That's an interesting one, and you can do some pretty interesting things with this. Now, what this is scaling, it's scaling the DE accuracy of the formula sequence number 1. All right, so it's scaling the DE accuracy of the formula sequence number 1. Let's try it. Let's prove it. That's the default is what, 2.0. Let's put a 10 in there. Okay, calculate. Okay, interesting. Okay, now my FPOW is a 10, so I'm scaling the DE accuracy. Now, evidently, the higher your number, the worse the DE accuracy is. All right, you can tell that because the integer power object here is beginning to have less detail in it. So the higher I go, the worse it gets. Okay, let's just go to 99. Oh, wow. Okay, really. So 99, I've just blown out the DE accuracy. Now, if you want a little bit more insights as to what the DE, the distance estimate, is all about, take a look at my tutorial series number 1, where we're building an animation. In that tutorial series, in order to get a good animation quality, we really needed to focus heavily on DE, distance estimate, and get that so that we didn't have noise, so that we got a good balance between rendering speed and quality, and so on and so forth. Okay, so go to that series if you want more. Well, if you want a deep dive into the DE. Let's go back to FPOW Let's knock that down to 1. Interesting. Okay. So this fpow is having a very significant impact on my DEcombinate 2 formula sequence configuration in mix mode. Let's knock that down to 1. 0, sorry. Okay. So what this is telling us here is that we can have an impact on the quality of our rendering. Now, this fpow is only affecting the quality of the first formula sequence, all right, which is right here. Now, my configuration is I have a sequence demarcation of 2. So in this configuration, I have 2 sequences. I can only have 2 sequences in DEcombinate, but sequence 1 is formula 1 only, and sequence 2 is formula slot number 2 only. Let's go back to, let's be reasonable here, and let's try a 4 in my fpow. Okay. So I have effectively, looks like I've actually degraded the DE. Let's go to 3. Now this fpow is only affecting the first formula sequence. Let's go to 2. 2 was the default. Okay. I'll tell you what, that is, let's try 25. Let's do one last 25 here. Let's see what we get here. Too much. I'm going to stop the calculation because I can already tell this isn't going to work. I'm going to knock that down to 15. All right, let's see what we get here. What I'm doing with this fpow is I'm kind of trying to find a location where I'm getting a very interesting mix in DEcombinate mode of 2 formula sequences, something interesting. That's interesting. Now, this is not animation quality. It just took too long to render. If I was to render 10,000 of these frames, I'd be at this for a long time. But it makes for an interesting still. Now, I want to point out one last thing, and then we'll close out this session. In the mix mode, all right, the DEcombinate mix mode, you cannot mix 2 escape time formula sequences. One of the formulas has to be escape time, and the other has to be dIFS, shape formula. I'll prove that to you. If you look here in the error, I'm going to take formula sequence number 2, and I'm going to put in an escape time in. I'm just going to pick anything. Here we go. Now watch the message area, and we'll see here that it's complaining in mix mode and DEcombinate, I have to have a shape formula in the second sequence. Let's prove that. I'm going to go to min. I've changed that to min. Now I'm going to calculate. All right, so that did not, it did not give me an error. All right, the image is not very good because cal sets. Let's pick. Let's see here. IQ bulb. Let's try that. Okay. All right. Now that's in min. That's in min, and that rendered. That was 2 escape times, and that rendered. Let's go to mix. Calculate, and I get the error. Okay. All right. So it's still trying to render, but it's not going to come out well. So what this comes down to is that in DEcombinate mode, in the mix DEcomb selection, I have some control over colors. I have some control over the DE quality of the first formula sequence of the DEcombinate, and I can't mix two escape times. I have to have an escape time and a shape. Okay? All right, so enough for that. We're over time on this session, but I think it was worth it. I'll see you in the next session.